You really showed up without a lawyer? Daniel's laugh sliced across the courtroom, loud enough that people turned. This is going to be easier than I thought. Emma's fingers tightened around the edge of the defendant's table. Her knuckles were white, her heart pounding in her ears louder than the judge's gavel. She felt the weight of her baby pressing low in her belly, a sharp reminder that she was not just fighting for herself anymore. "Mr. Hayes, that's enough," the judge warned. Daniel smirked anyway. "Sorry, Your Honor, it's just, she doesn't stand a chance." And then the courtroom doors swung open. He turned lazily, expecting some clerk or late observer. Instead, he froze. "Actually," said the woman in the navy suit, heels clicking on the polished floor, eyes like steel, "my daughter has me." From the outside, their life looked like a Pinterest board. White house with blue shutters, a manicured lawn, 2 cars that always gleamed in the driveway because Daniel insisted on washing them himself every Saturday. Neighbors waved, people envied. They were couple goals in every photo Emma posted. She used to believe it too. Emma Hayes had met Daniel in law school, though technically only he had gone. She was the barista at the grimy cafe across the street from the campus. He'd ordered an iced Americano and stayed to talk for an hour, complaining dramatically about case law and exams. She thought he was brilliant, ambitious, charming. "You're wasting your brain here," he'd teased the 3rd time he came in. "You should be the one in my classes, not the one making my coffee." He always made her feel seen. Back then, that had meant everything. The truth was, Emma had dropped out of community college after her father walked out and left her mother drowning in bills. She worked 2 jobs to help keep their small apartment, and school had quietly slipped from later to never. Daniel had breezed into her life like a promise that she hadn't missed her chance at something bigger. He'd proposed 3 years later on a rooftop restaurant, kneeling, rings sparkling, the city lights blurring behind him. She'd cried. She'd said yes. Her mother, Lorraine, watched with a tight smile and tired eyes, but said nothing. Emma assumed it was just the usual overprotective mum thing. Lorraine had raised Emma alone. It made sense she'd be suspicious of any man who arrived with a fancy watch and a flawless smile. But over time, the little things started. "Do you have to talk so loud?" Daniel would snap when she laughed with friends. "You don't really understand how contracts work, babe. Just trust me on this," he'd say, with a polite, dismissive smile whenever she questioned anything about their finances. He had an explanation for everything. He was stressed. He was tired. Her concerns were cute but naive. Emma accepted it. She swallowed the irritation, believing it was what good wives did. She kept the house spotless, tried new recipes, worked a part-time job at a local boutique, and told herself they were a team. Then she missed a period. The positive test stared up at her from the bathroom counter like a new sunrise. She'd imagined shouting, running to him, showing him the little plastic strip. Instead, her first instinct was fear. Would he be happy? Would this be enough? When she told him, his eyes widened. For one long second, his expression was unreadable. Then he smiled. "That's... wow. Okay. This is big." He kissed her forehead. "We'll make it work." She clung to that sentence as if it were gospel. "We'll make it work." Except over the next month, we became you. "You should quit your job," Daniel said one night over dinner, not looking up from his phone. "You'll be tired soon, and daycare is expensive." Her fork paused over her plate. "We can look at numbers. I like my job." He shrugged. "Emma, come on. Be realistic. My salary can cover us. You can finally relax. Isn't that what you wanted?" What she wanted? She wanted him to look at her like he used to. She wanted to feel like his equal, not his dependent. But the baby was coming, and he was right about one thing. His salary was double anything she'd ever made. So Emma handed in her notice at the boutique, telling herself it was temporary. Just until the baby was older. She didn't know then how deliberate his plan truly was. Nor did she know that, while she folded tiny onesies and painted the nursery a soft teal, Daniel had been having late meetings with a woman who wore scarlet lipstick and signed her emails with a winking emoji. The first real crack showed up in the form of an email. Not one she was meant to see. She'd been on Daniel's laptop to print her prenatal class receipt. Her own computer had died months earlier, and he'd never gotten around to fixing it. His was already open, screen lit. Her eyes barely skimmed the inbox until she saw the subject line. Last night was unforgettable. Her breath hitched. She told herself not to click. She clicked. The email opened slowly, as if the universe were giving her one last chance to close it and live in ignorance. When the words finally appeared, her stomach twisted. Can't stop thinking about you, about the hotel, about the way you said my name. I know you're married, but you told me yourself things were basically over. Still, I don't want to be a secret forever. Call me tonight. Jenna married. Over. Secret. Emma stared at the screen until the letters blurred. The cursor blinked, impatient, like it too was waiting for her to react. Her first instinct was denial. There had to be an explanation. A misclick, a misunderstanding, something. But the dates stacked against her. Messages from weeks, months, dozens. Are you okay? The baby seemed to ask with every little flutter. No, I'm not. When Daniel came home that evening, Emma had rehearsed 100 different speeches. Calm ones, furious ones, sarcastic ones. In reality, her voice came out small. Who's Jenna? He jolted, keys halfway to the hook. What? She swallowed. I saw the emails, your emails, on your laptop. Her hands shook, so she laced them together in front of her belly. How long has this been going on? His face transformed in an instant. Shock, then annoyance, then calculated composure. Wow, he said, slow and cold. So you're snooping through my private emails now? She blinked. I was printing. You're unbelievable. He cut in, dropping his briefcase on the floor with a thud. Pregnancy hormones really got you going, huh? That word, hormones, hit her like a slap. He said it like everything she felt was invalid, easily dismissed. Daniel, stop it. Answer me. Are you cheating on me? Silence stretched. He looked at her. Really looked. At her messy bun, her oversized t-shirt with a tiny stain from lunch, her swollen feet in fuzzy socks. Maybe he thought of Jenna in her tight dresses and lipstick that never smudged. Then he exhaled. Fine. If you want to make this into a thing. He lifted his hands, like surrender. Yes, I've been seeing someone. Because I needed something. We haven't been happy, Emma. Not for a long time. The floor might as well have opened beneath her. Not happy? She repeated, voice trembling. You could have talked to me. We could have gone to counseling. You're the one who keeps saying you're too busy for. I don't want counseling, he snapped. I want a life where I'm not constantly walking on eggshells around your emotions. She flinched, as if he'd struck her. But I'm pregnant with your child, she whispered. Yeah, and that doesn't mean I have to be miserable forever. There it was. The cold truth. He didn't see the baby as a miracle. He saw it as an inconvenience he was willing to tolerate as long as his needs and comfort remained intact. Tears welled in Emma's eyes, hot and humiliated. So what now? You just... Keep cheating while I stay home with your kid? Daniel shifted, jaw tight. I was going to talk to you after the baby was born, about separating. I didn't want to stress you out. She almost laughed. The absurdity was suffocating. Too late, she choked out. He rubbed his temples, annoyed. Look, we can do this the easy way or the hard way. We're adults. We'll get a divorce. I'll be generous. I'll help with the kid. You'll be taken care of. Taken care of? Like a charity case. Like he was some benevolent savior instead of the man who'd gutted their marriage in secret hotel rooms. Emma touched her belly, steadying herself. I'm not a problem you get to take care of, Daniel. He shrugged. You don't have a job. You don't have savings. Because you told me to quit. And you don't have a lawyer. I do. I've already talked to one. It was like being hit with ice water. You... What? Her voice cracked on the last word. He sighed as if she were unreasonable. I wanted to be prepared. I thought you'd be dramatic. I didn't expect you to snoop. But here we are. Emma could barely see through her tears. Get out, she whispered. Emma, get out of this house. For a moment, she thought he might refuse. He squared his shoulders, eyes narrowing. Then he grabbed his keys. You'll hear from my attorney, he said flatly. This doesn't have to be messy. But if you make it messy, that's on you. The door slammed behind him. The echo reverberated through the carefully curated, perfectly decorated house that suddenly felt like a stage built for someone else's play. Emma sank to the floor, palms on her stomach, sobs racking her chest. I'm so sorry, she whispered to the tiny life inside her. I'm so sorry. She didn't know it yet, but someone else had heard the slam of that door. Someone who had sworn years ago that no man would ever break her daughter if she could help it. Lorraine Vega had been many things in her life. Daughter of immigrants, factory worker at 17, single mother by 23, exhausted, overworked, underpaid. What most people didn't realize, because she rarely talked about it, was that she'd gone back to school in her 30s, once the worst of the chaos had passed. Night classes, online lectures, weekend study sessions. She'd earned a law degree before her 45th birthday, not to work at a shiny downtown firm with marble floors, but to specialize in the one thing that had nearly destroyed her years before: family law. She'd watched lawyers talk circles around her when Emma's father left. She'd signed documents she didn't fully understand, box of tissues on her lap, thinking they were her only hope. She'd vowed never again. But when Emma started dating Daniel, bright and polished and ambitious, Lorraine made a choice. She pretended to be nothing more than a tired administrative assistant at a small firm. It wasn't entirely a lie. That was where she'd started. People underestimated you when they thought you were just the assistant. Sometimes that was useful. Mostly, though, she kept quiet because she wanted to see who Daniel really was when he believed he was the smartest person in the room. The night Emma called her, voice hoarse and broken, Lorraine was sorting through old case files at her kitchen table. "Mom," Emma croaked. Lorraine's heart stopped. "What's wrong? Are you bleeding? Is it the baby?" "No, it's..." A sob. "It's Daniel." Lorraine grabbed her keys on instinct, already heading for the door. "I'm coming over. Stay where you are. Breathe. Keep talking to me." 15 minutes later, she walked into her daughter's house and instantly understood more than the words could convey. The silence was heavy, like the air after a storm. Emma's eyes were swollen. A half-drunk cup of tea sat forgotten on the counter, the bag still inside. Lorraine gathered her daughter into her arms. No questions. Not yet. When Emma's sobs finally slowed, She told her everything. The emails, the hotel, the plan to divorce, the lawyer. He said, Emma sniffed. He said I don't have a lawyer, that I don't have a job or money, that he'd be generous if I didn't make things messy. Lorraine's jaw clenched so hard it hurt. He said that? Yeah. Word for word? Emma nodded, eyes glistening. Lorraine's anger moved from white-hot to something sharp and crystalline. Not wild, focused. Good, she said quietly. Emma stared. Good. Yes. Lorraine smoothed her daughter's hair, voice soft but edged with steel. Because he just told you exactly how he plans to win. And he's wrong. Emma swallowed. I don't understand. I can't afford a lawyer, Mum. I don't even know where to start. I'm barely holding it together. What if he takes the baby? What if... Emma. Lorraine took her daughter's face, gently, in her hands. Look at me. Emma met her eyes, blinking back fresh tears. You are not alone in this, and you are not going to be pushed around by some overconfident man with a silk tie and a midlife crisis. A weak laugh escaped Emma in spite of herself. I'm 28. Isn't it a little early for his midlife crisis? Apparently he's an overachiever, Lorraine said dryly. Emma sniffed again. Mom, be serious. Do you have any idea how expensive divorces are? Especially with a child involved? He's already got a lawyer on retainer. I can't compete with that. Who said you have to pay? Lorraine asked. Emma frowned. That's how lawyers work. Not always. Lorraine stood and walked to her tote bag near the door. She pulled out a worn, leather-bound portfolio, the same one she'd carried into countless courtrooms. She flipped it open and slid a card across the table. Emma glanced down at it. Her brain stuttered. Lorraine Vega, ESQ, Family Law and Mediation. Her mouth fell open. Mum, what is this? My business card, Lorraine replied, tone almost casual. Emma looked between the card and her mother's face. You're a lawyer? Yes. Since when? Since about 3 years before you met Daniel. Emma's eyes went wide. You never told me. I didn't hide it, Lorraine corrected gently. You never asked what my second job was when I said I was working late at the office. You were busy being in love. I didn't want to sour that by telling you every horror story I see in court. Why didn't you tell him? Because I wanted to see him clearly, Lorraine said. Men like Daniel perform very well when they think they're being watched. I needed to know how he treated you when he thought no one with power was paying attention. Emma sank back into her chair. Her world, which had felt like it was collapsing, shifted slightly. The ground under her feet was still cracked, but not gone. There was something solid to hold on to. You're really a lawyer, she repeated, as if saying it aloud would make it more real. Lorraine nodded. And not to brag, but I'm a very good one. Emma laughed weakly, tears slipping down her cheeks again, this time not only from despair, but from sheer emotional whiplash. So, you'll help me? She asked in a whisper. I will represent you, Lorraine said, voice firm, if you'll let me. Isn't it weird? Representing your own daughter? Lorraine's lips curved into a small, wry smile. Honey, I have spent your entire life fighting for you without a license. This just makes it official. For the first time since she'd found those emails, Emma felt something other than grief. She felt a spark of something small but fierce. Hope. Over the next few weeks, Emma learned what it meant to prepare for a legal war. It wasn't glamorous, like on TV. There were no dramatic speeches in hallways, no slamming folders, no shouting, "Objection," every 5 minutes. It was mostly work. Lorraine moved through it like a seasoned general, choosing her battles, gathering weapons, mapping terrain. "First things first," she said, spreading documents on the kitchen table. "We get organized. Do you have access to your bank statements?" Emma frowned. "Only the joint account. Daniel handles everything else." "Of course he does," Lorraine muttered. "We'll subpoena the rest later. For now, get me everything you can. Pay stubs from your old job, any savings in your name, credit card statements, mortgage papers, car titles." Emma blinked. "That's a lot." "Yes," Lorraine said. "He's betting on you being overwhelmed, on you giving up. We're not going to do that." Emma pressed a hand to her belly and nodded. "Okay. Where do we start?" They started with the house. "Whose name is on the deed?" Lorraine asked. "Both of ours, I think." "You think or you know?" Emma hesitated. Daniel said, "Stop right there." Lorraine interrupted, voice calm but sharp. "I don't care what Daniel said. We care what's written. Put that phrase away for a while, okay? Daniel said got us here." Emma flushed, ashamed. "Okay." They dug through the safe in the bedroom closet, the filing cabinet in the office, the random drawer in the kitchen where important-looking papers had been shoved over the years. Lorraine read every line, highlighting key sections, muttering under her breath. "He refinanced 3 months ago," she said, tapping a line. "Did he talk to you about that?" "What? No. Is that bad?" "It's interesting," Lorraine said. "We'll come back to it." They moved to the laptop. Emma logged into Daniel's email again, heart pounding. It felt like trespassing, even now. But Lorraine reminded her, "This is marital property. You have a right to see what's going on." They found more than just love letters. They found bank notifications to accounts Emma didn't recognize. They found investment portfolios in his name only. They found a draft prenup he'd never shown her, with notes from his attorney, time-stamped, a week before their wedding. "He tried to get you to sign this?" Lorraine asked, eyes scanning the document. "No, I've never seen it." Lorraine's brows knit together. "So he planned to protect his assets, then changed his strategy. Interesting. Why would he not go through with it?" Emma asked. "Because," Lorraine said slowly, "a prenup requires full disclosure of assets. He probably realized he could hide more without one, as long as he kept you in the dark. No prenup, no messy disclosures back then. Now he thinks he can still bulldoze you because you don't have counsel." Emma's throat tightened. "He really thought I was that stupid." "No," Lorraine said, looking up, gaze softening. "He thought you were that trusting. There's a difference, and he exploited it. That's on him." Days blurred into each other. They met with a financial planner Lorraine trusted. They ran hypothetical scenarios. They prepared documentation showing Emma's dependency on Daniel's income, the sacrifices she'd made to support his career. They also prepared for the nastier realities. "He might try to paint you as unstable," Lorraine said. "Pregnancy hormones, emotional, overreacting. He might even suggest you're not fit to have full custody." Emma's stomach dropped. "He wouldn't." "He's already minimizing your feelings," Lorraine said gently. "He's already been unfaithful. We don't assume good faith now. We prepare for the worst and hope for the best." "What do I do?" "You document," Lorraine said. "Everything. Every interaction. Every text. Every time he's late to a prenatal appointment, or misses one entirely. Every time he raises his voice. You stay calm, you stay polite. You don't give him any ammunition, but you record the truth." Emma started keeping a journal. She took screenshots. She forwarded emails to a private account Lorraine had helped her set up. Meanwhile, Daniel's texts shifted from faux concern to veiled threats. "We can keep this civil if you just sign what my lawyer sends. Don't drag this out. It's not good for the baby. Why are you involving your mum? She's always hated me." When he finally found out Lorraine was a lawyer, because the official notice from the court listed Lorraine Vega, attorney of record, his mask slipped completely. "So your mummy is your lawyer now?" he texted, the words practically dripping with contempt. "You really think some small-time nobody is going to beat my counsel?" Lorraine read the message, lips curving into a slow, dangerous smile. "Perfect," she said. "Perfect?" Emma echoed. "He underestimates me," Lorraine replied, "and he put it in writing. Judges love patterns. Men like Daniel forget that condescension leaves a paper trail." The day of the first major hearing dawned grey and heavy. Rain smeared the city into blurred reflections as Emma and Lorraine walked up the courthouse steps. Emma's heart hammered so loud she could barely hear the traffic. Her pregnancy had advanced enough that walking too fast made her breathless. She pressed a hand against her belly, murmuring, "We've got this, okay? Grandma's scary when she wants to be." Lorraine heard and chuckled. "Flattering," she said. "Remember, you're not alone up there. Just breathe. Answer only what you're asked. I'll handle the rest." Inside, the courtroom was colder than Emma expected. The wooden benches, the flag at the front, the judge's empty chair looming over everything. Daniel was already there, standing beside a tall man in a tailored suit with a silver tie clip. His lawyer, obviously. Daniel himself looked polished, confident, hair perfectly styled, custom suit, no trace of the man who had thrown barbed words at her over text. He smirked when he saw her. "Wow," he said, voice low but carrying. "You really showed up without a lawyer?" Emma's mouth opened, but no sound came. The words tangled in her throat. Lorraine, who had hung back by the door for a moment, watched silently. "This is going to be easier than I thought," Daniel added, laughing. A few people on the benches turned their heads. Emma's cheeks burned. The judge entered then, and everyone rose, cutting the moment short. "Be seated," the judge said. "Case of Hayes versus Hayes. Preliminary hearing regarding temporary support, property use, and custody arrangements." Emma's hands shook as she sat. She felt small, exposed, out of place. After roll call, the judge's eyes flicked briefly toward her side of the room. "Ms. Hayes, I see you're unrepresented." Emma opened her mouth. The courtroom doors swung open, heels clicked on the floor. "Apologies for the delay, Your Honor," a firm voice said. "Parking was a circus this morning." Every head turned. Emma exhaled a breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding. Lorraine walked in wearing a navy suit that somehow made her look both elegant and dangerous. Her grey-streaked hair was pulled into a sleek bun. She carried a leather briefcase and an expression that could slice glass. "And you are?" the judge asked, arching a brow. "Attorney Lorraine Vega, Your Honor," she said, walking calmly to the table where Emma sat. "I'll be representing Ms. Hayes." Daniel's smirk evaporated. "Objection," his lawyer blurted. "We were not informed of any—" "Objection to what, counsel?" the judge asked dryly. "Your opposing party exercising her right to representation?" The man flushed. "Of course not, Your Honor. We just were unaware. That's why we have these hearings," the judge said. "So everyone can get on the same page." He turned to Lorraine. "Welcome, Ms. Vega. Are you prepared to proceed today?" Lorraine opened her briefcase, pulling out a neatly organized folder. "Yes, Your Honor." Emma watched the exchange, awe and relief mingling in her chest. The woman beside her, her mother, moved with the confidence of someone who had done this 100 times. As the hearing began, the American soap opera part of the story took shape fast. Daniel's lawyer, Mr. Price, started with a carefully curated narrative. Your Honor, my client simply wants what's best for his unborn child. He has been the sole financial provider, while Ms. Hayes has chosen not to work, and he is prepared to offer generous support. However, her recent erratic behavior— Objection! Lorraine's voice cut through the room like a knife. Counsel is making character attacks without evidence. Erratic behavior is a loaded phrase. If he intends to allege instability, we'll need specifics. The judge nodded. Sustained. Mr. Price, stick to facts. Price cleared his throat. Fact. Ms. Hayes accessed my client's private email accounts without permission. Lorraine was ready. Correction. Marital assets. The laptop and accounts were routinely used by both parties, she said calmly. And if counsel wishes to discuss what was found in those emails, I'm more than happy to enter them into evidence. Price faltered. Daniel shifted in his seat. The judge glanced between them. Curiosity piqued. Emails? Yes, Your Honor, Lorraine said. But perhaps we should save that for the evidentiary hearing and focus on today's issues: temporary support, use of the marital home, and a basic custody framework once the child is born. Daniel's jaw clenched. This wasn't the script he'd prepared for. Price switched tactics. My client is willing to continue paying the mortgage and utilities on the home if Ms. Hayes agrees to certain conditions on her access to his accounts and property. Lorraine's brows arched. So he wants to control her finances in exchange for not making her homeless while she's pregnant with his child? It's not control, Price said quickly. It's reasonable oversight. She has shown poor judgment. Again, Lorraine said, voice dangerously soft. If you intend to allege poor judgment, please provide examples, or withdraw the characterization. The judge looked over his glasses at Price. Counsel? Price swallowed. We maintain that my client's proposal is more than fair. Your Honor, Lorraine said. May I? Go ahead, Ms. Vega. Lorraine rose, spreading a few documents on the table before handing a set to the judge and to opposing counsel. This is a basic financial snapshot, she said. You'll see that Ms. Hayes left her job at my client's insistence during pregnancy. You'll also see evidence of several bank accounts in Mr. Hayes's name only, opened during the marriage, with significant balances he never disclosed to her. Price bristled. Those accounts are irrelevant at this stage. The existence of undisclosed assets is always relevant, Lorraine said, particularly when the same party is trying to leverage housing against financial cooperation. The judge skimmed the papers, his expression tightening. Mr. Hayes, did you fail to disclose these accounts in your preliminary financial affidavit? Daniel shifted. I forgot about some of them. They're for investments. It's not like she contributed. Sir, the judge said, tone sharp. That is not how community property works in this state. A murmur rippled through the courtroom benches. Emma watched, pulse racing. Each time Daniel tried to reassert control, Lorraine countered, calmly, relentlessly. At one point, Price tried to argue that Emma was too emotional to make rational decisions. She's pregnant, he said. Her hormones. Lorraine's eyes flashed. Your Honor, opposing counsel seems deeply interested in my client's hormones. Unless he has medical records to present, I suggest we keep to the legal facts and refrain from patronizing sexist tropes. Even the court reporter hid a tiny smile. The judge sighed. Mr. Price, enough. By the time the hearing ended, the temporary orders were clear. Emma would remain in the house. Daniel would continue paying the mortgage, utilities, and reasonable prenatal expenses. She would have primary physical custody after the baby's birth, with Daniel granted structured visitation, and any attempt to cut off her access to funds would result in sanctions. Additionally, the judge said, staring directly at Daniel, I strongly advise both parties to fully disclose all assets before the next hearing. Surprises tend to backfire in my courtroom. Court adjourned. People began to file out, whispering. It had been an unexpectedly dramatic morning. Price leaned toward Daniel, whispering urgently. Emma couldn't hear the words, but she could see the tension in Daniel's jaw, the flare of his nostrils. Then he turned to Emma. This isn't over, he muttered. I know, she replied, surprising herself with the steadiness in her voice. That's the point. Lorraine's hand came to rest lightly on her shoulder, both comfort and quiet victory. As they walked out, Emma heard someone behind them whisper, Did you see that? Her mum was a shark. Man didn't know what hit him. For the first time, the idea of this whole nightmare being a YouTube drama didn't feel entirely like a joke. If people could see what had happened, they wouldn't side with perfect suit Daniel anymore. They'd see him for what he was. The next twist came from an unexpected direction: the internet. Emma hadn't posted much since everything fell apart. Her social media had gone from cute couple photos to nothing in a matter of weeks. People noticed. Her DMs began to fill. Hey, is everything okay? You've been quiet. Did you and Daniel break up? He deleted some pics. Then one message changed everything. It came from an account she didn't recognize. For Jenna Ray Official, her heart stopped. She clicked. The profile showed a glamorous woman with thousands of followers. Makeup tutorials, outfit of the day videos, a perfectly curated aesthetic. The same Jenna from the emails. Emma's thumb hovered over the message notification. We need to talk. I didn't know he was still living with you. I'm sorry. Emma showed the message to Lorraine. You don't respond yet, Lorraine said. Not until we decide if involving her helps or hurts. Hurts, Emma echoed. She slept with my husband. And that makes her morally wrong, Lorraine said. But legally, she may be a gold mine or a land mine. We step carefully. They waited a day. Another message arrived. He told me you were separated, that you were only together for the baby. I found your Instagram. You looked happy. I realized he was lying to both of us. I left him. He's losing it. I thought you should know. Attached was a voice memo. Do not open that alone, Lorraine said. Put it on speaker. Emma's fingers shook as she pressed play. Daniel's voice filled the room. I told you, Jenna. She's nothing without me. She doesn't have a degree, a career, nothing. She should be grateful I'm offering anything at all. Once the baby's here, I'll get shared custody, and the court won't give her much. She'll be stuck. I just have to make her look unstable enough that the judge questions her judgment. That's why I need you to hold off posting anything too messy. I have an image, okay? The recording clicked off. Silence. This has to be fake, Emma whispered, even as she knew it wasn't. That condescending tone, that casual cruelty. That was Daniel, unfiltered. Lorraine's eyes were molten. Ask her if she has more, she said. They arranged a video call with Jenna. The woman who appeared on screen was not how Emma had pictured the other woman. Her eyes were puffy, her hair in a messy ponytail. She looked wrecked. I'm so sorry, she blurted as soon as the connection stabilized. If I'd known. You didn't, Emma said, surprising herself with how empty she felt, rather than furious. He lied to both of us. Jenna nodded miserably. He said you were just milking the pregnancy, that you trapped him, that he was trying to do the right thing and support you while leaving. He made you sound like a manipulative leech. God, I'm so stupid. Stupid isn't trusting someone who says they love you, Lorraine said quietly. Stupid is thinking you'll never be held accountable for using that trust to manipulate people. That's Daniel's problem, not yours. Jenna looked at her, brows furrowing. You're her mom, right? And her lawyer, Lorraine replied. Jenna blinked. Oh. They talked for an hour. Jenna had recordings, texts, screenshots. Daniel bragging about hiding money. Daniel rehearsing lines to sound concerned and fatherly in court. Daniel mocking Emma's baby brain and talking about how easy it would be to push her buttons so she'd explode in front of the judge. He said once the baby was born, he'd go for 50-50 custody just to avoid paying as much support, Jenna said. Not because he wanted to actually, parent. He literally said, I'll just hire a nanny when it's my week. Every word was another nail in a coffin he didn't know he was building. Will you testify if we need you to? Lorraine asked finally. Jenna hesitated. If I do, he'll come for me. Online. He knows things. He'll smear me. You have a platform, Lorraine said calmly. He has a reputation that matters to him. You testifying truthfully under oath is powerful, but I won't pressure you. You have to decide what you can live with. Jenna swallowed. Can I think about it? Of course, Lorraine said. In the meantime, please send everything you have, unedited, originals. A few hours later, a flood of files arrived. Lorraine backed them up in 3 different places. Then Jenna did something no one expected. She posted a video. Not a makeup tutorial, not a sponsored haul, a shaky, makeup-free video titled The Truth About Dating a Married Man, My Story. She didn't mention Daniel by name, but she didn't have to. She described him, the career, the city, the timeline. She blurred his face in photos, but people could connect dots. She talked about how he'd lied to her, how he'd lied to his pregnant wife, how he'd laughed about playing them against each other. This is not a drama channel, Jenna said, voice thick. But I need to talk about this because I feel sick knowing I was part of his betrayal. If you are the wife, I am so sorry. You didn't deserve this. The video went viral. Comments poured in. Men like this make me sick. Girl, you were lied to too. Don't blame yourself. If I were the wife, I'd use that man's ego as firewood. Emma watched the video in silence, hand on her stomach. It felt surreal seeing her life turned into content, into tea, into a cautionary tale strangers dissected from behind screens. But there was one undeniable upside. Daniel's carefully crafted public image cracked. He found out about the video within hours. Her phone lit up with his messages. Did you see what that psycho posted? You need to tell her to take it down. This affects my reputation. If you don't distance yourself from her publicly, my lawyer will argue you're trying to damage my career on purpose. That will hurt you in court. Emma stared at the texts. Then she forwarded them to Lorraine. Good, Lorraine said again, that same cold satisfaction. He keeps writing his own downfall. The final hearing was a packed affair, not because anyone advertised it, but because word had spread. Courthouse staff talked, lawyers gossiped. The case with the viral side chick video and the lawyer mum had become a bit of courthouse law. Emma tried not to think about that as she adjusted her maternity dress and lowered herself carefully into the chair beside Lorraine. You okay? Lorraine asked. I feel like a balloon with ankles, Emma muttered. But yeah. You're strong, Lorraine said. That's what you are. Across the aisle, Daniel sat stiffly beside Price. His face was pale and pinched. The viral video hadn't named him, but his colleagues had put it together. His firm had temporarily suspended him pending internal review. He'd told Emma this in an attempt to guilt her. "Look what you did to me," he'd said. She'd replied, "Look what you did to yourself." The hearing began. This time, it wasn't just about temporary orders. It was about the big pieces: division of property, long-term support, and a proposed custody arrangement once the baby arrived. Price went first, trying to regain control. "Your Honor," he said, "my client acknowledges mistakes in his personal life, but we must not let internet gossip and emotional theatrics overshadow what the law requires. Fairness." "Agreed," the judge said. "Stick to the law, counsel." Price launched into a presentation about Daniel's income, his generous offer of support, his involvement in the pregnancy. Lorraine waited, watching. Finally, it was her turn. She rose slowly, like a tide. "Your Honor, opposing counsel is correct about one thing," she began. "The law requires fairness. It requires that both parties' contributions to the marriage are recognized, not just in terms of direct income, but in sacrifices made, opportunities lost, and trust given." She walked to the evidence table. "Let's talk about income and assets," she said, distributing updated financial summaries. Mr. Hayes failed to disclose several accounts until they were independently discovered. He characterized these as investments he forgot about. The balances total over $200,000. The judge's brows rose. "200,000? Daniel shifted. "Additionally," Lorraine continued, "we have evidence Mr. Hayes refinanced the marital home shortly before announcing his intent to divorce, increasing the equity he could access, while planning to position my client as financially dependent and unprepared." Price opened his mouth. "Those decisions were legal," Lorraine supplied. "Perhaps. Ethical? Debatable. But their timing and secrecy go directly to the question of whether Mr. Hayes is negotiating in good faith." She let that sit for a moment. "Now," she said, "about internet gossip." Price stiffened. Lorraine held up a disk. "We have recordings, Your Honor, provided voluntarily by a third party who had a relationship with Mr. Hayes during the marriage. In these recordings, he discusses his strategy for making Ms. Hayes appear unstable, his intent to use custody as a bargaining chip to reduce financial support, and his belief that, quote, "she's nothing without me." Daniel surged to his feet. "She can't play that." "Sit down, Mr. Hayes," the judge snapped. "You will speak through your counsel." Price looked like he wanted to melt into the floor. "Your Honor, we question the authenticity of those recordings. We have metadata," Lorraine said calmly. "Timestamps, original files. We're prepared to call the third party, Ms. Jenna Ray, as a witness, under oath, to verify them." All eyes turned toward the back of the courtroom. Jenna sat there, plain jeans and a sweater, no makeup except for mascara that had already smudged. Her hands twisted in her lap, but her jaw was set. "If the court deems it necessary, I'm here," she said quietly. The judge considered. "For today, we'll admit the recordings and reserve the right to call Ms. Ray if needed," he said. "Play a relevant portion." Lorraine nodded to the clerk, who pressed play. Daniel's voice echoed through the courtroom. "She doesn't have a degree, a career, nothing. She should be grateful I'm offering anything at all. Once the baby's here, I'll get shared custody, and the court won't give her much. She'll be stuck. I just have to make her look unstable enough that the judge questions her judgment." The judge's face hardened. The recording clicked off. Silence. "Mr. Hayes," the judge said slowly, Do you dispute that this is your voice? Daniel swallowed. I was venting. I didn't mean— The context is clear, Lorraine said. This is not a man making a clumsy joke. This is a calculated plan to weaponize custody and mental health stereotypes against the mother of his unborn child for financial gain. Price tried to pivot. Regardless of my client's unfortunate words, we must still consider his rights as a father. He wants to be involved. If he wants to be involved, Lorraine said, he's welcome to start by attending prenatal appointments. To date, he has missed 4. He's also welcome to demonstrate respect for the child's mother, which he has repeatedly failed to do, both privately and, thanks to his own foolishness, now publicly. She turned to the judge. My client is not asking to cut Mr. Hayes out. She is asking for primary custody with structured visitation that ensures stability for the child. She is asking for a fair share of the assets their partnership built, considering the career sacrifices she made at his urging. And she is asking that this court send a message that manipulating the system, hiding assets, and treating a pregnant spouse like a disposable liability will not be rewarded. The judge leaned back, steepling his fingers. The room held its breath. Finally, he spoke. I have considered the evidence and the testimony, he said, and I have some thoughts. He looked directly at Daniel. Mr. Hayes, this court is not in the business of punishing people for being imperfect spouses. Affairs happen, marriages end. That is unfortunate, but not, on its own, my concern. Daniel seemed to relax slightly. However, the judge continued, voice sharpening. This court is deeply concerned about honesty, disclosure, and the best interests of the child. You have repeatedly attempted to conceal assets. You have spoken about your wife and unborn child with contempt. You have admitted, in your own words, plans to manipulate perceptions of her mental state to gain leverage. That behavior is my concern. Daniel's shoulders sagged. Accordingly, the judge said, here is my ruling. He laid it out, clear and precise. Emma would receive primary physical custody. Daniel would have visitation structured around the child's routine, including overnights only after demonstrated consistency and cooperation. Child support would be calculated not just on his base salary, but on his bonus history and investment income. Emma would retain exclusive use of the marital home for at least 5 years, or until the child started school, whichever came later. The previously undisclosed accounts would be included in the marital asset pool, with a significant portion awarded to Emma to compensate for her career sacrifice and Daniel's bad faith behavior. And one more thing, the judge said, looking over his glasses. If I see any more attempts to undermine Ms. Hayes's stability without evidence, or any retaliation against Ms. Ray for cooperating with these proceedings, I will not hesitate to impose sanctions. Am I clear? Yes, Your Honor, Daniel muttered, face chalk white. Court adjourned. It was over. Not the co-parenting, not the healing, not the rebuilding, but the worst of the legal war. As people filtered out, a clerk passed by Emma and murmured, "Your mum's a legend." Emma smiled, tears blurring her vision. "Yeah," she said. "I know. Life did not magically become perfect after the ruling. They still had to schedule visitation. There were still tense handoffs in parking lots, forced polite texts about pediatricians and daycare options. There were still nights when Emma lay awake, one hand on the baby monitor, wondering if this had all permanently broken something inside her. But there were also new things. The first time her son, Noah, wrapped his tiny hand around her finger and stared up at her with Daniel's eyes, but not Daniel's coldness. Something healed. She discovered she was stronger than she'd ever imagined. She found part-time remote work doing social media management for small businesses. It started as a favor for a friend of a friend and turned into a real income stream. She liked using her brain again. She liked that when she looked at her bank account, it wasn't just overflowing with his name. People began to reach out to her quietly, often through Jenna's followers who had pieced the story together. "I'm in a similar situation. How did you find the courage to leave? I'm pregnant and my boyfriend is acting like your ex. What should I do?" At first, Emma didn't know how to respond. She wasn't an expert. She was just someone who survived. Lorraine nudged her. "You don't have to be their therapist," she said. "But if you want to share your story, it might help someone feel less alone." One evening, when Noah was finally asleep and the house was quiet, Emma sat on the couch with her phone. She opened a new video recording. Her hands shook, but she pressed record anyway. "Hi," she said, voice soft. "My name is Emma. You don't know me, but you might know my story." She talked. Not about the gossip, not about the viral video, about the feeling of realizing your life wasn't what you thought, about the humiliation of sitting in a courtroom while your husband called you unstable, about the unexpected power of being underestimated. "My husband mocked me for not having a lawyer," she said. "He thought I was alone. He thought I was weak. He forgot who raised me." She smiled just a little. "My mum is a family lawyer," she said. She walked into that courtroom and reminded him, and me, that I was not powerless, that trusting the wrong person doesn't make you weak, it makes them cruel. She talked about the baby, about the ruling, about the slow, hard process of rebuilding. "If you're watching this, and you feel stuck," she said, eyes shining, "I can't promise a dramatic courtroom victory. Real life doesn't always work like that. But I can tell you this. You deserve respect. You deserve honesty. You deserve safety. For yourself and your children. And no matter how much someone has made you feel like you're nothing without them, that is a lie. You are not nothing. You are everything to the people who truly love you." She posted the video. It didn't go as viral as Jenna's, but it reached the people who needed it. Months later, sitting at her kitchen table while Noah played with blocks on the floor, Emma watched her mother come in with a stack of files. "New case?" Emma asked. "New client," Lorraine said. "Young woman, pregnant, controlling husband, thinks she has no options." Emma's chest ached. "You'll help her?" "Of course," Lorraine said. "But I was thinking, maybe you could talk to her too. Sometimes it helps to hear from someone who's been there." Emma looked at her son, at the house that no longer felt like a stage, but a home she was slowly repainting in her own colors. "Yeah," she said, "I'd like that." She thought of Daniel then, briefly. His career had taken a hit after the recordings surfaced in a professional misconduct complaint. He hadn't been disbarred, but his promotion had vanished. His caseload shrunk. He was still part of Noah's life, but now on terms he hadn't chosen. He had to show up on time, had to keep his temper, had to follow rules. Karma didn't always look like fiery destruction. Sometimes it looked like slowly losing the control you prized most, forced to live with the consequences of being seen clearly. Emma didn't hate him. Not anymore. She simply didn't center him. Her life story was no longer about the man who mocked her. It was about the woman and the mother who refused to stay small when he tried, and the generation after her, crawling across the floor in dinosaur pajamas, who would grow up seeing that. So, the narrator's voice softens as the last image of Emma and baby Noah fades on screen. What do we take from this? Never underestimate the quiet one. Never underestimate the girl who gave everything in good faith, because when betrayal cracks her world, she might find a strength you never planned on. Daniel thought his pregnant wife was an easy target. No lawyer, no power, no voice. He forgot she had a mother who had learned the law the hard way. He forgot that evidence speaks louder than ego, and he forgot that karma loves receipts. If this story hit you in the heart, if you cheered when Lorraine walked into that courtroom, if you've ever felt underestimated, controlled, or talked down to, go ahead and like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who needs to remember their worth. Drop a comment below. What would you have said to Daniel in that courtroom?